What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Prophecy Misfits Podcast. This is episode 406. Will fall bring the fall? Yeah. That's a question I think a lot of us are asking, if that's going to be the situation or not. We don't know, but I don't know. There's a lot of interesting things stacking up. A couple chin scratchers that we're going to go over tonight that maybe things will finally shift in the United States, as they've been stacking up to do for a while. But anyways, this is what we do on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Welcome in. Glad to have you guys here. We get together and we watch the crazy things that are happening around the world to the best of our ability in order to be the best watchmen that we possibly can be, according to what God has commanded us. And of course, we try and go out there. We try to share as much unbiased information as possible. We don't hold back punches. And we just share it out there in order to sound the alarm of what's going on and get the gospel to as many people as we can. Again, we're at this point where there's just this world. I know it's kind of been the thing that I've been talking about the last couple of shows, if you guys have been around, but I just can't stress it enough. We have got to let go of this world, and we got to maintain our sights on things above, continue to do what the Lord has told us to do. We have no idea how long we have here. But then we got to remember that time down here is but a vapor for the Lord. So we got to make sure that we continue to do the work that God has told us to do. So, but glad to have you guys here. If you're new, again, we go over as much information as we can through the lens of biblical, logical, and prophetical. Is that even a word? I don't know. I'm going to make it one. And we just trying to view everything through that lens in order to do, as we said, the best job as watchmen as we can. So glad to have you here. If you are new, if you're a veteran, you know where to find the juice boxes. JoJo can usually pass those out. She's pretty good at doing that. So, anyways, how's everybody doing? Everybody have a good week. It is hot as the dickens down here in Texas. That's for sure. My poor AC is doing everything that it can. Just stay up with it. So, yeah, there's the juice boxes. Good to see it. So yeah, episode of 406. Will fall bring the fall? We got plenty of things. Like I said, it's one of those questions. There seems to be a lot of chin scratching developments surrounding the midterms, and we've seen stuff like this happen in the past where nothing happens. It's dull as dull can be when it comes to things that we thought that there was build up for. But there's a chance that you just never know. Maybe they are prepping and they are going to pull a trigger on something. And we just need to make sure that we're aware of those things. So we're definitely going to be going over a few news developments in regards to that today when it comes to Trump firing election commission. Now that the SCOTUS, the Supreme Court, that was the thing that slid underneath the whole birthright stuff. And that was one of the things that I said, keep an eye on it. So he's already getting to work firing all these independent agent groups. They've also been trying to sidestep a whole bunch of stuff when it comes to election integrity, but we also got DOJ is threatening persecution, legal persecution to local election officials, and we have they're trying to set up permanent fencing around Pennsylvania Avenue and the White House and the Lafayette Park and all that jazz, as well as fortifying the front door of the White House, just all at the same time. Plus the Pentagon announced that the National Guard is going to be activated until Inauguration Day 2029. So a lot of variables happening there. So we'll talk about that stuff. We also got, I didn't know if I was going to talk about this, but I thought, hey, you know what? It's lighthearted. It's fun. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Do you guys remember the whole, this just happened. What was it? Yeah, just about a week ago, the whole Mamdani thing in New York, saying New Yorkers, please keep your thermostats to 78. And all of a sudden, all the MAGA right-wing Republicans went nuts and stuff regarding how that's socialism and communism, telling people to keep their temperatures at 78. Yeah, we'll take a look at that too. Just for fun. We'll talk about that. We also got updates coming out of the Middle East. Iraq, Syria, and the United States are looking to bring back an old pipeline, oil pipeline that goes from Iraq into Syria. So we'll talk about that. Of course, we've got more threats of Trump being assassinated, so we'll talk about that. We also got updates regarding the elimination of free press, First Amendment, stuff that Trump has actually publicly stated that they are working on getting rid of. I've played that video before for all the people who don't think that that's true. He has said that they are actively working on destroying the First Amendment and free speech. So we'll talk about that situation, plus a whole bunch of corruption and a whole bunch of pardons and dropped investigations because of pay-to-play situations. So we'll talk about that as well. The Ex-Epoch Times CFO, the dude that handles the finances for the Epoch Times, you know, that conservative news site that a lot of Christian prophecy podcasters and teachers and stuff like that use in their quote unquote research and stuff like that. Yeah, he pleads guilty to a $67 million multinational money laundering scheme that was cycled through the Epoch Times bank accounts. So we'll talk about that as well. Epstein update. We'll talk about that. We don't do a whole lot of that unless there's something that might be worth mentioning. So we'll talk about that. And then updates on some data center situations as well. So plenty of things to discuss. So strap in for this one. So, DeBuns, do you have any information on McConnell? No one seems to be saying a peep. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's dead. I'm pretty sure he died a couple weeks ago, from what I've seen. The reason why they're not saying anything and they're keeping it hush hush is because they would have to hold a special election, and it might throw things off because he has such a prominent role on things. So they're just keeping it. Oh yeah, he's like, I spent 20 minutes talking to him. Well, of all the people who said I spent 20 minutes talking to him on this very same day, he was on the phone for about 12 hours. So pretty sure McConnell's dead. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Anyways, so plenty of things to discuss. Yeah, Heather, he gone. Yeah, pretty sure he's gone. So, yeah. Jojo with the emojis. Oh my goodness. All right. Let's go ahead and get rolling with some, where is it? Housekeeping.
Housekeeping?
I think you're sleeping.
Housekeeping?
All right, usual spiel. If you guys can, like, share, subscribe, get this out to as many people as you can. It's not about views, not about butts and seats, but it is about getting the warning out to people and getting people to Jesus. That's why we do this. That is the whole point. If our focus is not on getting people to Christ, then why on earth are we doing this? This is all pointless. Our own knowledge of things is not going to save us, and it's only Jesus Christ. And so we do what we're called to do, be watchmen, get the warning out there and get the gospel to as many people as we can. And the best way to do that is to like, share, subscribe. It helps get out to those people. So please do me a solid if you are so inclined to do so. Also follow along on Rumble and Telegram. Rumble's a backup plan. Let's start that one over. Rumble is a backup platform. There we go. In case we get booted off YouTube, we'll be backup live streaming over on there. And then Telegram post updates, announcements, and other little things here and there that I can't necessarily put in video format. I put up on there. So follow along on those platforms if you want to. If not, no worries. You'll just make me cry. But the best place to stay up to date, of course, is the WretchedWatchmen.com website. So please bookmark the website so you're always in the know of what is going on. We got ourselves the live streams and the past live streams, the replays and stuff over there. You got the announcement page, just for announcements and stuff like that. And then the free book to download and other little dibs, dabs, doodles, and caboodles. I don't know. You'll find all the stuff over there on the website. So bookmark the website to stay up to date. And last but not least, if you guys like to support this channel, what I got going on, I got donation links down below, CashApp, Venmo, and Give, Send, Go. Again, you guys are the ones that make this all run. It's your donations that keep this going. And I like to always view it in this perspective. It's you guys are going to get anybody who has received Christ through all of this. You guys are going to get some crowns for that, for those who support. So thank you guys for that. And I appreciate it. Of course, we don't do it for the crowns, but it's just a way to kind of think about it. But thank you guys. Again, you make this run. This is entirely free, and it's going to stay free. And so I appreciate it. Faith Seeker, been praying for you. Thank you. Definitely appreciate the prayers too. That is always incredible. Those prayers are extremely valuable. So I appreciate that. Love the little dinosaur. Anyways. All right. That is what we got for housekeeping. And yeah, so it is Saturday. We missed Saturday last time for reasons. But we got this Saturday, which means we got ourselves the Wretched Weather Report. Let's go.
Everybody got their fancy hats? Let's go!
All right, so the Wretched Weather Report, what we do is we keep track of the trends. Country down, have we heard from Jellyfish? Jellyfish is fine. She is a traveling. I think she's coming stateside from Australia. So Jellyfish is a traveling. So all good. Yeah, so Saturday, what we do is we keep track of the trends of what's going on with weather stuff. Get the fancy hats on, good to go. And again, I'm not a weatherman, a geologist, planetologist, gynecologist, proctologist, any of the ologists out there. I don't know. Just whatever came to mind. I'm none of those things. But we just keep, Queen of England, Barbara Walters. But yeah, we just keep track of the trends. I got you, country. Just keep track of the trends of what's going on so we can stay up to date, because as we know, these natural events are going to increase in size and frequency and are part of the birth pains. And so we got to keep, it is hot, Chris. I'll tell you what, it is hot up in here. You're going to start seeing some sweat coming down my brow here. But yeah, we just keep an update of what's going on. It also gives us the ability to pray for people as traumatic events through natural events and everything like that. The Lord definitely does work through those. I've seen countless stories of people who have come to know Christ because of those situations. And so it gives us a chance to pray for those as well. On that Watchmanologist. That's a new one. Is there an ologist? Ologiception? Anyways, we're already way off track on this one. Let's just go ahead and get into this. As far as earthquakes this past week, 5.5 magnitude and up, you notice that the list has very much shrunk. We had a couple months there of insane earthquakes, both in frequency and in scale. A lot of mega earthquakes. It seems to have diminished quite a bit this past week. And we got ourselves a 5.8 in Lavuka, Fiji, 5.8 in Sarangani, Philippines, a 5.8 in Puerto Williams, Chile, a 5.8 in Isanjul, Vanuatu, a whole bunch of 5.8s, 5.5 in the Balleny Islands, and then the big one of the week is a 6.4 in the South Sandwich Islands. That is a big sandwich. So as far as volcanoes, we got 47 volcanoes actively erupting around the world. That's up 3 from last week. Again, we didn't do a thing last week, but I checked the stuff. It's up 3 from last week. And we got 7 in North America, which is +2 from last week, 7 in South America, 2 in Europe, 2 in Antarctica, 3 in Africa, 17 in Asia, which is +1 from last week, and 9 in Oceania. So that is what we are sitting at. I gotta stop looking at the chat. You guys are ridiculous. But yeah, that's what we got going on with that. I know that there's a ton of wildfires spreading all over the Midwest right now. I don't have like the exact count or anything like that or anything to pull up regarding it, but I know there's a ton of wildfires ripping through there. I'm not sure about the West Coast. Usually the West Coast is on fire. I'm not sure about what's going on there. Other than that, don't really have anything else to report on when it comes to natural events. However, if you know of something, whether it's here or you know of something going on somewhere else in the world or whatever, please post. There we go. Please post something in the comments, and so we can pray for those being affected by it. Salt Lake City had a big fire last week. Big fire in Salt Lake City. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going. It's like, it's one of those things where, is it bad that I think if there's big wildfires happening, can they go over the data centers and just take out the data centers, leave everybody else's house alone, but just like somehow whip around and hit the data centers? Is that bad? Am I thinking that way? I'll have to ask for forgiveness if it is. Otherwise, that's just how I think about it. Not of this world. They're flaming in San Francisco. Yeah. Yeah, that's you can't deny that one. Oh, I was not expecting to read that one. Anyways. Oh man. Okay. The beginning of this episode has been unhinged already. Oh my gosh. I don't know how I'm gonna recover from this one. All right. Anyway, let's go ahead. Hold on. Oh man. I gotta, whoo. Okay. Bring it back in. Come on. Snap back. Let's go. Why you gotta do that, man? Oh man, I apologize. I'm losing it. I've got to get back into this here. Dang it. Oh man. Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm sorry. I can't stop. Okay. Let's get into this, shall we? Oh man. There's going to be people watching that are tuning in for the first time going, what on earth? What is this? Okay. So let's talk about this, shall we? Since we're already it's lighthearted and ridiculous enough talking about the Flamers in San Francisco, let's move over to New York. So show of hands in the chat if any breathe. I'm trying, Lori. I am trying. It's just once you get me going, I can't stop. Okay, so show of hands in the chat. How many saw this? The Mamdani mocked by the GOP for telling New Yorkers to set the thermostats to 78. I saw this where there's a whole bunch of people on social media that I've been looking at and everything like that. Mamdani is laughing too. Yeah, he's laughing at other things. He's laughing at a bunch of different things. Anyways. Mamdani, he put out there and said, because there's a massive heat wave that was going through the East Coast. This was on July 2nd. And he said, to help conserve for this energy grid that we have, because anybody who knows that has been in either snow-ridden areas, like cold-ridden areas, or heat-ridden areas, you know that power grids fluctuate significantly during those times. And power outages and whatnot can occur a lot. And so trying to save the power grid, he said, try and keep it to 78, please, so everything would go. And so he got blasted for as this being a socialist move. Now, he is a socialist. Obviously, we know that he's not a good guy in any way, shape, or form. But usually how it rolls when it comes to the political paradigm theatrics of things is whenever somebody on the other side says something, even if it does make sense, which in this case it does make sense, you have to blast it as whatever you can in order to promote your own side of things. Well, let's just talk about how ridiculous the theatrics of this really is. So it says Republicans are criticizing New York City Mayor Mamdani after he suggested residents set their thermostats to 78 degrees to help conserve energy in the city as it braces for triple-digit temperatures this weekend. He says, New York, it's hot out there, and the power grid is working overtime to keep us cool. Set your AC to 78 degrees, turn off lights, electronics you're not using, and unplug what you can. Sounds oddly familiar to the same warnings that we get down here in Texas during the summertime, too. And during the wintertime, because, there's a lot of cold fronts coming in where people were running their heaters like crazy, and we had rolling blackouts in Texas. Interesting. Now, it says conservative lawmakers and pundits linked the recommendation from the city's first Democratic Socialist mayor to victories over the last 2 weeks by other Democratic Socialist candidates, arguing it is another example of Democrats embracing socialism or communism. Now, I always found this funny because we just talked about this. So we have Mamdani here, who's a self-proclaimed socialist. That was the S word in my house growing up. That's just, it's a foul word that you don't mention, for obvious reasons. Socialism is terrible. But it's one of those things where he put out the idea of, I want to put in, subsidized grocery stores in New York to try and bring down the price of food. And you have all the right-wing people out there saying, look, it's socialism, it's socialism, it's communism. Look at what he's doing. Meanwhile, the same people that are saying subsidized grocery stores in New York is socialism are the same people cheering on Trump's subsidized gas stations as something great. It's like, it's the exact same thing. Because the only difference is one is Trump, Republican, red, and the other one is Mamdani, Democratic, blue. And so that's the political paradigm that I continue to point out. They want to do literally the exact same things. One is food, one is fuel, but they're both subsidized. But yet one is bad because it's one side, and the other one is good because it's their side. This is something, again, it's so obvious, but I have to keep pointing it out because hopefully there's somebody who's listening who's still blinded by this paradigm that they finally recognize that they both play for the same team. And that's why I laugh at stuff like this, because I'm about to show you why. It's purple, not yet. Yeah, anyways. It's a different conversation. That's why, again, I laugh at stuff like this that I'm about to show you. So it says, Senator Rand Paul said Mamdani's remarks are proof that communism is unfortunately alive and well, because he asked his city to keep thermostats to 78. Senator Rick Scott out of Florida, who I've pointed out is somebody who defrauded defrauded Medicare and Medicaid for multi-billions of dollars. He stole billions of dollars through Medicaid fraud. Remember that. He said that this is communism at work. While Senator Lindsey Graham said that the Socialist Democrats are coming for your AC. And he also said this is the future that woke Democrats want, not just for New York City, but for South Carolina too, Graham added. Now, here's the thing. Recommending that thermostats be set at 78 degrees to reduce energy use, however, isn't terribly unusual, including from agencies run by the GOP. Earlier on Thursday, one reporter noted that the U.S. Department of Energy, which reports to President Trump, was recommending a 75 to 78 degree setting for energy efficiency. So Trump's own Department of Energy is saying, set your thermostats to 78 degrees. But somehow that's not socialism. But Mamdani saying it is. That's the theatrics of it. By Thursday afternoon, the recommendation appeared to have been deleted from the agency website, which, by the way, is still deleted. Literally, the day after Mamdani put that thing out about it, the Department of Energy went through all of their web pages and deleted several hundred pages, all featuring a recommendation of AC sets at 78 degrees. They literally went in and deleted websites from the Department of Energy, any page that says during summer months, keep your AC temperature to 78 degrees. I went to the Wayback Machine on July 2nd. This was the day that Mamdani posted the thing. This is the Department of Energy website, home cooling systems. Cooling tips. Set your thermostat wisely. Set your programmable thermostat as high as comfortable in the summer and raise the set point when you're away from home. Start with an indoor temperature between 75 to 78 degrees during the day. The next day, deleted. This is the theatrics of politics that I warn about. We're not done. Goes on to say, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis was among those mocking Mamdani. Says but a tech reporter responded to DeSantis's taunt by noting that the Florida Public Service Commission, whose members were hand-selected by Ron DeSantis, had issued the identical recommendation for residents to set their AC units to 78 degrees in the summer, as recently as June of this year. Well, let's see here. Where's it at? All right. Here we go. Oh, not that one. This one. This is publication of the Florida Public Service Commission, June of 2026. And let's go down. The commission board, all of these commissioners on this board were hand-selected by Ron DeSantis, all of them. And if we jump down to Conserve Your World. Conserve your thermostat. The recommended winter setting for the daytime is 65 to 68 degrees and 55 to 58 degrees at night. During summer months, the recommendation setting is 78 degrees. Fascinating how their own administrations are doing the exact same thing as Mamdani, but yet Mamdani is somehow making 78-degree thermostat socialism, but theirs is not. Goes on to say, after Senator Cruz, Texas responded to Mamdani by saying, in a first world country, you could turn on the AC. A community note that was added to his post read, Ted Cruz's own state has made the same request on numerous occasions. And again, I've seen them. I live here. They do it all the time. It says, Mamdani cast his recommendation as the city doing its part to conserve energy at a time when the temperatures are high and air conditioning is running. It says, our city is doing its part to maintaining the 78-degree rules in our buildings, dimming, turning off our lights during peak electricity demand, and private partners to do the same, and powering down non-essential equipment. Yep. Now, also fascinating, I want to point this out because this leads to another thing, is this is Ron DeSantis responding to Polymarket. If you guys missed the deep dive that we did on Polymarket, I suggest that you go and watch it. I have a clip video of it. Go check it out. You're going to want to know what's going on with that because this whole Polymarket influencer prediction market, that whole thing is actually connected to DARPA, the CIA, and the intelligence groups of the Information Awareness Office created back by DARPA in early 2000s. So all of this plays a part. And so on July 1st, Polymarket put out a thing. It says, Mayor Mamdani urges New York City residents to set ACs at 78 degrees Fahrenheit to ease strain on the power grid amid a blistering heat wave. And Ron DeSantis responds and says, is this what it's meant by the warmth of collectivism? Now, what's interesting is there was a swath at the exact same time, literally in the same hour, of multiple GOP politicians and multiple right-wing MAGA influencers who all posted that exact same post, word for word. All of them said, is this what was meant by the warmth of collectivism on this news? They all got an email. And I showed on that investigation thing of Polymarket that we just did, that these people all get emails and said, you need to post this at this time. You need to do that now. And that even applies to politicians, Ron DeSantis, his team of things, influencers. They all have to post the exact same thing. It's a script, and they have to post things at certain times in order to make this stuff work. It's also fascinating because we went through that whole thing. We knew ahead of time, if you guys remember going back when this whole New York City mayor election thing was happening, we did an investigative thing again on Mamdani, who supports him, where he comes from, and that whole thing. And we know that Mamdani, even though there's this whole Islam thing and he's against Israel thing that's at play with him, we understand that there was quite a bit of Jewish organizations and Jewish money flowing to Mamdani. Which again, I showed all that. He had major support by a whole host of very high-ranking Jewish people. And he got in, and we knew that he was going to get in because when we did this, it was before the election. It's going to happen. He's going to get in. And it's going to be the selection because it's going to allow the left-right power struggle situation that this country needs in order to continue to push it towards the Luciferian agenda that it's currently traveling towards. And we also know that we just went over the Polymarket situation, and we know that Mamdani was connected to the Polymarket. situation. Basically, they confirmed that Mamdani was going to win the election because we know they're not elections, they are selections. And the selection even goes down to mayor when it comes to these places like that. And so we got to keep that in mind, that all of this, everything that we're seeing from thermostat temperature to socialist grocery and gas stations to mayor elections to congressional social media posts and governor's social media posts, all the way up to presidency, is theater. It's theatrics. It's there to control. It's there to condition. It's there to manipulate. And that's how these things work. So again, I continue to watch people who jump on that political train. Well, Mamdani said 78-degree thermostat. Even though my own state, by my own governor, who I hold as high because he's a Republican, does the exact same thing. No. Mamdani, that's because of socialism that they have to turn their thermostats to 78. Because we need to turn our thermostats to 78 down here. It's a completely different thing. It has nothing to do with it. Just like his grocery stores that he wants to subsidize, that's socialism. But the gas stations that Trump is putting out there that he's subsidizing, that's not. The only difference between that is what color political flag you are flying, because the logic doesn't make sense if you don't actually have a leaning on anything. So this is just one of those things where it's like, I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about it, but at the same time, I think I do, just because not only is it just ridiculous, where we literally have the United States Department of Energy deleting pages that they recommend on setting your temperature to 78 during the summer months simply because Mamdani said something about it, goes to show the theatrics of how all this is, how they are playing you, how they are influencing you, how they are manipulating you, all in the name of politics. And then we can laugh at the ridiculousness of it being about thermostat temperature during the summer months. I don't know about you guys. I have my thermostat set to 72, and my AC can't even get my house down to 72. It's running nonstop to try and get it down there. So, but yeah, I just, I see this stuff all the time, and you know, I just got a comment on one of my videos by this person, and they've never been around my channel. This is the first comment. I've never seen them before. Again, it shows that they've only commented once on my channel, and it was the comment that they left where they literally asked, do you ever, report on anything that the left is doing? I'm paraphrasing. That's not his exact, but he's basically asking, do you ever, report on anything that the left is doing? Why don't you ever go after them? And I'm sitting there going, well, first of all, go take a look at other stuff on my channel, because all that tells me is that you haven't actually looked at anything. The video that he was commenting on, I actually talk about how it's the polymarket network goes both left and right. It's utilizing both sides of things. So what I'm reading from this comment is I pointed out how corrupt an influencer that he liked was, how he was involved, and he got up in his fifis about it because you can't handle somebody that you like being called out for something that they're actually a part of. Again, I've seen this before, and I get the responses, when I call out certain pastors and teachers and stuff like that all the time. It's like, well, I don't. Why are you attacking such a good person? It's like, I'm not attacking anybody. Me pointing out the facts of what the reality of the situation is, just because it hurts your feelings doesn't make it any less true. And so the same thing goes to the political side of things. I get it all the time. It's like, well, you're pointing out stuff that's going on with the right-wing stuff. Well, that tells me you're a lefty. It's like, okay, first of all, I'm not. Second of all, you haven't looked at anything else. And third of all, this is relevant to what is going on today in the here and the now. Again, why would I live in the past and talk about something that happened 5 years, 3, 4, 5 years ago that has no effect on what's going on right now? What good is that going to do us with what we're going on right now? Why would I ignore the things happening now that actually affect us in real time to go and talk about something that happened back then that has nothing to do with anything? The reason why they want me to do that is because they want me to attack the other side that they don't like. And it's like, well, the whole point is you shouldn't be on anybody's side because they're all one and the same. The left and the right are one and the same. They're all working towards the same Luciferian agenda. So why are we on one side or the other? I'm not on anybody's side. I'm, again, up in the bleachers with Jesus, waiting for the moment where he says it's his time to come down, burn this whole thing down to the ground, bring in the new heaven and the new earth, and reign supreme as a monarchy. That's what I'm waiting for. That's why I'm sitting up there. That's why I'm not down on the field. That's what politics does. That's what Satan wants. This whole, again, it's one of those things where it's like, if you want to look, I always do this as a good litmus test. This is one of those things this is what I talk about when I say compare and contrast when it comes to how we view this stuff. Take a look at what, seriously, the two words. Take a look at what Democrat was back in the 60s. Take a look at what conservative was back in the 60s. Just go take a look at what was going on back in the 60s around those two particular words. You'll notice that the Democrat back in the 60s was actually a whole lot more conservative than the conservative is now. I kid you not. Because it all has to do with the pendulum swing. It all has to do with moving society, moving the spectrum of things in a certain direction. And this is exactly what we're seeing right now, because that's why we don't hold to parties. That's why we don't hold to affiliations. That's why we hold to Christ. Because with Christ, it's not a pendulum. It's a rock that doesn't move. It doesn't swing. It doesn't change. It's all the same. But if we go and abide by the father of lies, political religion, everything has changed. I feel what you're saying, but I can't argue my point. I always get in a circular debate of the lesser of two evils. Well, if you're in a debate and you're going in a circle, exit the debate. Don't throw your pearls to swine. You're wasting your time. It's something that I've learned, and I had to learn this very quick. You can ask my dad. I learned this very quick. Don't even begin a debate unless both parties can determine a starting foundation to debate upon. And in most cases, it's not going to happen. And if you guys can't even find a starting point, a starting foundation for something, you're both wasting your time. Nobody's changing their mind. Nobody is going to bend. Everybody's going to dig in even further on the debate, and it's going to be wasted breath. That's all I can say. So I had to learn that very quick, because I get comments and emails. I've even had phone calls, and it's people who, it's like, well, what about this? And it's like, okay, do you believe in this? Well, no. Then I can't even talk to you, because we don't even have a foundation to start on here. It's just going to be wasted time. And yeah, when it comes to the whole lesser of two evil thing, it's as simple, and again, it's one of those things where there's not even a foundation, but if there was a foundation, the lesser of two evils, the fact is you're still endorsing evil. You're consenting to evil. And that's something that I've talked about too when it comes to it. We know, well, most people don't, but here on the channel, most people here, that's why we're on Misfit Island out here, know that your vote, your voice means nothing. It doesn't matter. It's a ritual that has been engaged in this country for people to give consent to evil. That's what it is. You're not voting for a representative. You are giving consent to a representative to go and commit evil based upon the Luciferian agenda. And so it's one of those things where if you guys can't even have a foundation of, well, evil is evil and we're not supposed to support it, that's a biblical foundation. We're called not to support evil. And so if our vote, our consent is for two evil beings, whether one is more evil than the other, and they both work for the same party in different ways, so they're both the same amount of evil, just in different perspectives, then why are we engaging in that? So the foundation would be the biblical aspect of us not being in support of evil. And so if our only option is to support one of two evils, then why are we engaging in it? Especially since we know it doesn't change anything. We're just giving consent to the evil that follows. But again, that requires a foundation, starting point, and logic. Two things that seem to be lacking in many debates nowadays. So there's a ton of people that disagree with me on that. That's fine. And if they attempt to debate with me, I'm not even going to attempt to, because we don't have a starting point. You see what I mean? So there's other people out there that are actually seeking the truth that will actually listen to that conversation. But that's my perspective. You do what the Lord leads you to do on your side of things. That's how I view it. So, all right. Moving on. Let's take a look what's going on in the Middle East. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, this just popped up today. This is pretty interesting. Syria, Iraq, and U.S. plan to unveil Mediterranean pipeline deal to bypass Strait of Hormuz. It says the Trump administration will announce plans to resurrect a 5-decade-old pipeline running from Iraq to the Syrian port of Banias. Now, this is another one of those cases. So we're going to get into it, but just a couple of things beforehand. First of all, this won't be a new pipeline. This is a pipeline that's been around for a while, and it was wrecked a couple decades ago. And this is to revitalize it. So that's not a new pipeline. It's to revitalize one that's already been there, that's just been sitting there. But the aspect that I always like to view this from is, and again, I always view it from the biblical perspective of the first 69 weeks that we read in Scripture. Are all based Old Testament. You look at it, it's Old Testament. Wow, the word just slipped my mind. God is going Old Testament at this time. It all has to do with Old Testament locations, and it all has to do with Old Testament structure of how everything operates. Then we have the church age that pops in, and we get shot over to the age of grace. That's where the New Testament comes in. And then we know that coming in the day of the Lord, there's going to be the 70th week to go in there and finish it off. And how I always like to view it is, if the 70th week, the day of the Lord, that whole situation is going to be like the Old Testament, which we know it is, because the church is going to be removed. We're going to be out of that era. God's going to go Old Testament again. The spiritual is going to just increase exponentially here on these times. I always view it, if the first 69 weeks were based Old Testament, why wouldn't the 70th week based Old Testament? Which is actually interesting, because if you go and you read the verbiage and the language and everything regarding what happens during the 70th week, everything is kind of referenced in Old Testament locales again, naming, structure, nomenclature, all that type of thing. And so it's just one of those things where it's like you got the first 69 weeks, you got the age of grace, and then you've got the 70th week. Just drop out the church age and slam the 70th week back over, and it's all going to be a continuation thing. So why would it not revert back to Old Testament regions again? That's how I view it. That's how I look at that. I think that makes a whole heck of a lot more sense than trying to come up with some type of mishmash mixing of things that a lot of people try and do when it comes to the traditional view of things. So when it comes to some type of increase of trade and expansion in the Middle East, which is just going through the roof right now, almost like it's preparing for the day of the Lord. This kind of stacks on top of that, and I think it's something that we should definitely pay attention to, even if it comes to revitalizing an old pipeline. And so it says Iraq, Syria, and the U.S. plan to revive a historic 500-mile pipeline to Syria's Mediterranean coast as part of efforts to reduce Iran's control of the Strait of Hormuz, which, if you guys know, the war is back on again. You know, the whole on again, off again, on again, off again, the whole thing. Well, it's back on again as of an hour ago. Iran said that the strait's closed. The U.S. says the memorandum is done, ceasefire over, started launching stuff again. So yeah, woo, we're back. Anyways, it's just another Saturday. It says an agreement to receive the pipeline an agreement to revive the pipeline originally running from the northern Iraqi city of Kirkuk to Syria's coastal town of Banias is expected to be unveiled next week when Iraqi Prime Minister Ali al-Zaidi meets U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House. Tom Barrack, Tom's ambassador to Turkey and envoy to Syria and Iraq, has been working on the details of the agreement before Zaidi's visit. Says the pipeline was completed in 1952 by Iraq's petroleum company with around 300,000 barrels per day of capacity. Baghdad shut the pipeline in the 1980s after Syria sided with Iran during the Iran-Iraq War. The line was heavily damaged after the 2003 invasion of Iraq and is effectively defunct. It says Baghdad's government is dominated by Shia political parties and militias close to Iran. They have been wary of working with Shura, a Sunni Muslim who founded a al-Nusra Front, al-Qaeda's Syrian branch, over a decade ago. And we know that al-Shura, who is now being praised and heralded and lifted up as such a shining beacon of light by Donald Trump, was indeed a terrorist who beheaded and butchered countless American citizens and U.S. soldiers, all in the name of his Muslim terrorist group, which, of course, we know Al-Qaeda, though, is already was a group funded and started by CIA. Imagine that, that whole situation. And so very, very interesting. But Shura entered the U.S. orbit after toppling Assad. He enjoys the close backing of Turkey. Yeah, every time the name Turkey pops up, keep an eye on Turkey. They are the spearhead for Ezekiel 38, so keep that in mind. Close backing of Turkey and Gulf states, including Qatar and Saudi Arabia. The Trump administration has lifted multiple layers of the sanctions on Syria, including Shura's former rebel group, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. That's right. So Trump is not only heralding Shura, but he's lifting sanctions off of Syria and Shura's rebel group. Keep in mind, this is the one that's supposed to save us from the Muslims here in the United States. Yeah. The U.S. announced last week that it would remove Syria from the list of state sponsors of terrorism. Yep, so the U.S. is now going to remove Syria from the terrorist list, since they've held since 1979. Keep an eye on the Middle East. Keep an eye on the Middle East. Again, that's where things are increasing exponentially. The trade routes, the power, the economic, military, and influential power of Turkey is going through the roof. We know that Iraq is being just built up when it comes to trade. We understand there's a revitalization of Babylon happening in Iraq, so much so that they declared it to be the commerce capital, the industry capital of Iraq. And we know the Al-Fa port and that whole trade route that goes through the middle. I mean, things are going crazy over there. So we need to keep an eye on that situation for sure. And that leads us to, I can't help but laugh every time I see this. Israel sounds the alarm on chilling Iran plot to take out Trump. Yes, there's another terrorist assassination threat against Trump. Oh my goodness. Israeli officials. Israeli officials have warned Washington that Iran has plotted a new attempt to assassinate President Donald Trump. That's like junior high school, writing a note to your crush in class, giving it to your friend so your friend can go and deliver it to your crush to see what they say, because you don't have the guts to do it yourself, type of thing. You know how easy this is just to make up this headline? Which if you want to know my opinion, I firmly believe that they actually absolutely did. The Wall Street Journal first reported that Israel shared intelligence with the United States alleging a new Iranian plan to target Trump, with those claims later summarized by News 4 San Antonio, According to the coverage, U.S. officials received warning this week while the Pentagon and allied natives were already running operations, navies were already running operations to protect commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah, how is that going for you? Another ship just got blown up. Neither outlet published underlying evidence, and the U.S. officials have so far declined to declassify operational details, leaving the public with more questions than answers. The strength of intelligence. This is just pure propaganda. That's all this is. The only reason why I'm bringing it up is to point that out, that this is absolutely just pure propaganda. So I would not be surprised if you start seeing other social media accounts, podcasts, even pastors mentioning this during their sermons tomorrow, depending on where you go to church. And if your church is focusing on that, find a new church, please, for the love of all that is good. But I just want to point it out there. This is just straight up propaganda. I mean, this is obvious propaganda if anybody's actually paid attention to it. And I always find it interesting. I always have to point this out whenever I talk about a new assassination attempt is possibly being brought towards Trump on all of this. I always have to point this out. Is Trump by far the most narcissistic, egotistical man on earth right now. Man. Second to none to Satan himself, in my opinion, when it comes to narcissism. Continues to blame Obama and Biden for everything. Democrats, they're the problems. They're the ones that caused all the problems on everything. And he says it over and over and over. Every single time he opens his mouth, he's talking about how the Democrats did him wrong and the Democrats are attacking him and the Democrats are doing this. But it's so fascinating that he continues to talk about that, but yet he absolutely refuses to talk about any of the assassination attempts that happened on his life. Does anybody find it fascinating that one of the most narcissistic men that loves to talk about himself more than anything on earth has all of a sudden just never talks about how he's survived multiple assassination attempts? Almost like his puppeteers have told him to not talk about that in order to not bring attention towards false flag assassination attempts that were not real. Kind of like this one that's clearly not real. So just something to think about, something to think about. Nice one, Bab. Which leads us to this. Talking about how Trump has publicly said that he's destroying the First Amendment. New York Times journalist subpoenaed as Trump escalates pressure on media. The Justice Department is seeking to compel testimonies from reporters who wrote about the new Air Force One. So in case you guys don't know, Trump took one trip on Air Force One and retired it. He's back on the original Air Force One. It was reported he flew it to NATO, but then they had to bring the real plane over to NATO to fly back out because they had to retire the one that Qatar gave him that the taxpayers spent 400 million or billion? I think it's million or billion. I can't remember. Somebody clue me in. 400 something million or billion dollars to retrofit the new Air Force One, and it lacks all countermeasures that Air Force One needs to have. And so he can no longer use it as Air Force One because it lacks all of those measures. What's fascinating is they just spent all of that money to retrofit this thing where he took one trip over to Europe and now he gets to keep the plane for personal reasons. Yeah. If you guys don't know how that works, first of all, it was illegal for him to accept it. Second of all, after he spent all that taxpayer money to get it retrofitted, now he gets to keep the plane. He only needed to fly on it once, and now he gets to keep the plane for personal reasons. After you financed all of it. Now, because the reporters were reporting on the deficit of countermeasures and defensive measures on the plane, he's now subpoenaing the journalists for doing free press. Yeah. Trump administration issued subpoenas on Friday to several journalists for the New York Times. By the way, this is not the first time that they've done this to journalists. There are laws that says that they can't do this, but yet they continue to do it anyways because this administration doesn't care about law or constitution or rights or any of that. Trump administration issued subpoenas on Friday to several journalists for the New York Times after the news outlet reported this week on security concerns involving Trump's new Qatari-donated Air Force One. The subpoenas, which seek to force the reporters to testify before a federal grand jury on Manhattan on Wednesday, were an extraordinary escalation in Trump's efforts to threaten and intimidate independent news organizations. In some cases, the subpoenas were delivered by federal agents who showed up at the reporters' homes. The appearance of federal law enforcement agents on the doorstep of news reporters should shock the conscience of any American who believes in the Constitution and the press freedom it protects, said David McCraw, the Times' top news lawyer, in a statement on Friday evening. Says the subpoenas contain few specifics, asking only that the journalists testify in regard to an alleged violation of federal criminal law. They were issued by Jay Clayton, the U.S. Attorney in Manhattan, who recently was nominated by Trump to serve as Director of National Intelligence. You just cannot make this up. In a statement on Saturday, the Justice Department spokeswoman said that the reporters are not the targets. Those leaking classified information are. And this is why we have laws that specifically stack on top of the First Amendment, the freedom of press, that protect reporters and their sources. There are, in case you guys don't know, there are several laws when it comes to journalists, reporters, press, the whole gamut, when it comes to protecting sources. If a reporter gets information from a source and that source needs to remain anonymous, then the law protects the reporter from not having to give the information of who it is, even if it comes to classified information. That source is protected. That reporter is protected. The Trump administration is saying, to heck with all that. We're going to subpoena the reporter, and then we're going to lean on them to make sure that we can get the source that they're not required to give. This is called destroying the First Amendment. You know, it's fascinating because I remember hearing countless times during the 2024 election that if Kamala Harris got in there, that this is the stuff that she was going to be implementing. But now that Trump's in there and he's doing it, it's dead silent. We're talking about the red heifers again. Because we can't talk about the other thing, because that makes us look foolish. Because we were the ones that were pounding our fist on our pulpit telling our congregation that they're being disobedient to God if they don't go and vote for Trump. Because Trump is not going to do the things that Kamala Harris is going to do. Interesting. Goes on to say, it was reported on Wednesday that Trump had departed Turkey on the old Air Force One as a security precaution at the urging of the Secret Service. So he flew there on the Qatari plane, but then had to fly back on the old one because of the security problems. The new Air Force One, a Qatari donated a Boeing 747-8, lacks some of the advanced security features of the older aircraft, including anti-missile capabilities. Wow, that kind of seems like they kind of, missed something quite obvious on that one. Both articles cited sources who spoke on the condition of being anonymous to discuss sensitive security issues. Before the Wednesday article was published, a senior official at the Federal Bureau of Investigation contacted a reporter and a senior editor at the Times to ask that the article be held, calling it an issue of national security. Of course, everything is a national security problem for them. According to a person familiar with the conversation, the FBI official declined to explain the security issue. The official, well, we already knew what it was, that's why. The official also asked the Times to disclose its sources for the article. The newspaper refused to do so, which they are legally not required to do. It's part of the source-reporter relationship, and they are legally protected. Trump has long been a harsh critic of news media, but in his second term in office, he has moved aggressively to use the immense powers of the federal government in his efforts to attack the press. As I said, this is not the first time that they've done this. Earlier this year, the Justice Department sought to compel testimony from journalists at the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post. The Justice Department withdrew the subpoenas after both news organizations fought back and sealed filings. Both Democratic and Republican administrations have initiated leak investigations into the disclosure of classified information, but subpoenas aimed at journalists are not common because the First Amendment. That's why. In January, FBI agents took the rare step of searching the home of a Washington Post reporter. This is breaking countless laws. Hannah Natanson, as part of an investigation into a government contractor's handling of classified materials. The agents seized phones, laptops, and a smartwatch after executing a search warrant. Ms. Natanson had spent months speaking with government employees while reporting on the Trump administration's effort to shrink the federal workforce. Again, this is one of those things where I'm pointing it out because we have a full-on, every bit of the quote-unquote freedom that we are continuously told that we have in this country is being shredded. What's left of it is being shredded. Right now, the First Amendment is getting ripped apart section by section. We've gone over how every aspect of the First Amendment is being purposely dissected by the Trump administration. He's going after the speech. He's going after the protest. He's going after the freedom of press. He's going after the religious stuff. Bit by bit, piece by piece, he is dismantling. And when I say he, I'm talking about this administration who's controlled by the Luciferian cabal. Because as we know, Trump he has no mental capacity left. He's intellectually deficit. He's wearing diapers, and he's like Biden was. He's just Weekend at Bernie's. Trump is just destroyed. I don't know if they drugged him or what. But he's not doing any of this stuff. He's just a face, a puppet, and so on and so forth. But every piece of that First Amendment is getting just picked apart. And it's going to be gone before you know it. It's already gone now, but they're just closing in on it. So, because again, remember, according to NSPM 7, if you use the First Amendment to oppose anything of Trump's policies, you are now considered a domestic terrorist. Not my words. That's what the policy reads. That's what the security piece reads. Now, that leads us to the conversation when it comes to midterms. So it's one of those things that we very rarely ever talk about anything when it comes to election stuff. I mean, we talk about the whole mentality and the psyop that surrounds it, but we don't necessarily talk about election stuff very often because it's kind of pointless unless there's a specific reason for it. But in this case, it's something that I have been tracking for many, many months. I just haven't talked about it, but it's something that I've just been keeping an eye on because it seems like we're getting to a point where they're prepping. There's something funky going on surrounding the midterm situation. And again, we know that there's selections, and whenever there's something like the whole 2020 situation, we know that it's rigged, but just not in the way that the Trump administration claims that it's rigged. That's the theatrical side of it. The whole thing of the 2020 election situation, we know it was always rigged. We know that it was purposely done to make it look like Biden, rigged the election to get him in there because that started the whole train of the Biden administration fighting with the Trump lawfare in order to jettison the societal mind towards backing Trump to take care of all this stuff, and that's why we're in the situation that we're in now. But it seems like they're, again, prepping for another theatrical display when it comes to midterms, and it makes me wonder if maybe this fall it's going to begin the downfall of this country on things. I don't know for sure. I'm not going to sit here and speculate and claim that I know or make a prediction on anything, but there's some stuff that has come out that I think you guys need to be aware of when it comes to this. and we can all keep an eye on it together at the same time. So we start here. Let me grab water real quick. 1 second. All right. So we start here. Trump fires election assistant commission members ahead of midterms. So the EAC, the election assistance commissions, they're kind of like the referees when it comes to assisting states with their election detail. And there's it's a 4-member board, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and that's what they're there for. They're kind of there to assist and referee on things. And because of the Supreme Court decision that granted presidential power to hire and fire anyone on independent agencies, excluding the Federal Reserve, this is what we have now. And of course, that decision, that SCOTUS decision, and we talked about it a couple weeks ago, that flew completely under the radar because of the whole birthright situation, which was being taken completely out of context, whether you were on the left or the right when it came to that decision. But I said that one is the distraction, and it's this decision that's actually going to play a role in things. And we're seeing right here, it's because SCOTUS gave the president the power to hire and fire anyone on independent agencies, which he's not supposed to be able to do. That's why there's the whole checks and balances thing. And that's why they're, independent, because SCOTUS gave him that power. Boom, he fires all of the election assistant commission members just like 160 days or something like that before the elections. It says U.S. President Donald Trump on Thursday terminated the last 3 members of the Election Assistant Commission, the independent federal commission that assists election administration officials nationwide. The White House confirmed. The remaining 3 commissioners of the 4-member bipartisan commission were forced out of the commission on Thursday in different ways. Basically, they told the Republican appointee to resign and then fired the Democratic ones because you have to do, the political theater situation there on that one. It says the 4th commissioner departed the commission in April. The terminations follow the recent Supreme Court decision that granted the president more power to fire members of independent agencies and a push by Trump for more federal intervention in voting processes. Traditionally, the purview of the states as midterm elections approach in November. On behalf of Trump, I am writing to inform you that your position as commissioner of the Election Assistance Commission is terminated effective immediately. The email says the president, the head of the executive branch, reserves the right to remove individuals that may not be totally aligned with the important task of securing America's elections and ensuring every legal vote is counted. A White House official said in a statement citing the Supreme Court decision as precedent. And we've seen this before. They want to do the voter rolls. We understand that it was Scott Leinenberg, or I can't remember his last name. We did a deep dive on this. You guys can find it on my YouTube channel on the playlist of deep dives. You'll find something about the whole election thing. I did an entire deep dive on it. But we know that a Trump ally that's connected to the whole 2020 situation bought Dominion voting machines, turned it into Liberty Vote. And so now there's a Trump person that owns pretty much all the voting machines that's going on with that situation. And we understand that he's gone through, again, just go watch that deep dive. I don't have all the information off the top of my head, but he has clearly stacked the deck in favor of making this a display of stealing election, similar to what we saw in 2020. And so it makes me wonder if they are planning for something like that, especially when we start seeing something like this, because this is so public, this is something that grabs attention. If they were going to do something in the way of quietly stealing an election, they wouldn't be doing this in such a public manner. But because they're making everything such a giant spectacle, it's almost like they're prepping for fireworks in November. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. It says the terminations follow advocacy from Trump and top administration officials to change vote-by-mail requirements ahead of the midterm elections and investigations in the 2020 presidential election outcome, which Trump lost to Biden. In his second term, Trump has repeatedly claimed without evidence that the 2020 election was rigged. Again, we know it was, but just not in the way that they are claiming it is, because that's the theatrics of it. The 2002 law, based on the Help America Vote Act in 2002, states that the president can appoint replacements to the commission, but it is unclear how Trump will move ahead with the commission. So this is definitely, again, I've been tracking it for months, and it's just everything that they're doing is so blatantly obvious and spectacle. And it makes me, and that's why I say, will this fall bring the fall? You know, we continue to talk about, you know, there's going to be a time when there's going to be uprisings, and there's going to be riots, and there's going to be crazy things when it comes to this. We know that Trump said during his 2024 campaign, if you vote for me, you'll never have to vote again, type of thing. We understand. I'm still holding on to that. Again, what that could mean, I don't know. None of us know. We know that he said it. What does it mean? We don't know, but maybe this is what that means. But still, it's one of those things where they're making such a giant spectacle of this, and people on both the left and the right are paying attention. And so it's just one of those things where it makes me wonder if they are planning something explosive for the midterms. I don't know. I'm not going to make that prediction because I don't even have a leaning on this. I don't. I'm just sitting back watching, eating my popcorn, drinking my juice box, and waiting to see what's going to happen. But either way, it is something that I think we do need to pay attention to. We need to keep an eye on, because if they do plan on making this a thing, we do need to be aware it's something that could possibly roll into something much worse for this country than what we're currently sitting in right now. Then we also have this. It says Trump officials sought ways to sidestep election agency before the firings. So apparently they were working on ways to get around it, which they've been doing before. It says the White House has spent months looking for ways to bypass a federal election agency and to use emergency powers to force changes to voting machines before Trump ousted its leaders on Thursday. It says it was not immediately clear why Trump decided to force the commissioners out at this time or if they will be replaced. The agency remains operational, but without a quorum, it cannot take up any new business, such as implementing changes to voting procedures or the National Voter Registration Form, which again makes me wonder if they've already got the stuff in and now they're just getting rid of people. So there's no mess ups, no hiccups that get in the way, because as we know, they have an agenda and they move forward with the agenda, but people are human and it can get messy and there can be people messing up. And sometimes they have to make moves to make sure that mess ups don't happen, which this could be one of those situations. It says in a Thursday statement confirming the firings, the White House cited a Supreme Court decision in June that granted the president more power to fire members of independent agencies. We talked about that as well. It says as early as last fall, White House officials reviewed a recommendation from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence to declare a national emergency and create a federal task force that could compel states to address vulnerabilities in voting systems without going through the elections commissions. The agency at the time was finalizing its probe of voting machines it has seized from Puerto Rico. It says the report was never published and the recommendation was never acted upon, but complaints about the election commission continued. So if you guys don't know, they're still right now investigating, quote unquote, investigating the 2020 election stealing, rigging situation. If you guys don't know, they just a couple months ago, they raided the Georgia office. They made that whole display. Tulsi Gabbard, she was in there during the raid on the phone personally with Trump. And that's supposed to be, again, that's illegal. The president can't be on the phone with the director of national intelligence on a secure raid like that. There's supposed to be separation because she can't be getting direct information from Trump about what to be looking for on these investigations. But she was, and he was directing her saying, look for this, I commend you for this, and that whole situation. Of course, we got all the details regarding that, which means we were supposed to receive all the details. Again, that's the spectacle aspect of that. We know, and this is something I've been keeping an eye on too ever since it happened, is they've thrown around the possibility of how Cuba could have been involved with the 2020 election rigging. And we know that they have Maduro. And so there's been the prospect of using Maduro to plead guilty to rigging the election in 2020. There's that whole theory, which I've seen much whacked out more theories than that before, especially since they're looking at things like Puerto Rico and outside influence, you know, the whole China, Russia, that whole thing. So there's that whole aspect with it as well. So again, I'm just trying to give you guys as much information on this as possible. Just hold on to it and we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think it's something that we should keep an eye on for that one. How's everybody doing? Yeah, Proton. Investigating. Yeah, investigating. Yeah, what exactly are they investigating? There's nothing to investigate. It's theatrics on that. I got a thumbs up from Cheryl. Good to see. Good to see. All right. That leads us to this one. Department of Justice issues nationwide threat to prosecute local election officials. It says it's the latest in a series of attempts by the Trump administration to exert control over state-run elections. And we know on this one, a couple other things that's been happening. We understand that certain states, the Trump administration has gone to certain states and demanded their voter registration information. So the list of everybody's names, addresses, phone numbers, social security numbers that's registered to vote in that state. The Trump administration has gone to those states and threatened them with lawsuits if they don't hand it over, which is actually illegal. When it comes to voter registration, it's supposed to be by state, for the state, only for the state. And the federal government is not supposed to be able to have a centralized roll of voters. It's supposed to be state kept. And so there's been sovereign states that have been saying we're not handing those over, but then the Trump administration has gone in and threatened that whole situation with lawsuits and arrestings and investigations and withholding emergency funds, which if you guys don't know, he's already done to several states. He's withheld emergency funding grants. So we've seen that. We also know that we've already seen ICE agents enter into polling stations to threaten poll workers, to take down social media posts. We've gone over those stories before. That's illegal. They're not supposed to be able to do that either, but they're doing it anyways. We also know that they've been working on certain legality ways in order to keep federal agents at polling stations to threaten people, which that's illegal as well, but they're working on that as well. Again, all of this stuff is coming out to make it look as obvious as possible. It's pretty interesting to watch. Now we have this, where they're issuing to prosecute local election officials. It says the Department of Justice sent a letter to dozens of state and local election officials threatening to prosecute them if any non-citizens are found to have voted in the upcoming midterms, sharply escalating the Trump administration's attack on local election oversight across the country. The letter was signed by Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon, a staunch Trump ally who is serving as head of the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division. Now, I found this interesting. So they're threatening to prosecute the election officials if any non-citizens are found to have voted in the upcoming midterms. I did a little looking on this. According to the Heritage Foundation, yes, that Heritage Foundation, the Christian nationalist dominionist organization that created Project 2025 that is currently in play right now for the Trump administration. Yes, that Heritage Foundation, according to their own investigative records, in the past 10 years, 10 elections, they have counted only 77 cases of non-registered voters voting, and only 10 cases of illegal voting, like non-citizen voting. In 10 elections, the Heritage Foundation's own records says there's only 77 cases of unregistered voting, 10 of which are from non-citizens. But yet all we're hearing consistently by the politicians and in the media and the pastors, it's the Democrats that are loading up with illegal non-citizen voters that are doing it. But yet the Heritage Foundation's own records state otherwise. See, that's another one of those situations where, what do you believe? Well, I've been told by my MAGA masters that it's all these illegals that are voting, but yet the MAGA Masters Heritage Foundation that's running all of this, they're saying that that's not the case. I don't know what to believe. I can't think for myself. I have to be told what to believe, but I'm getting conflicted information. It's like full panic mode, man. It's full panic mode. Interesting. I didn't know that, but I did a little look and it's like, oh, they even said that that's not a problem. But now the president is threatening. President's effort to crack down. Here's an idea. If you don't want the Muslim voters, how about the Trump administration's connections to the Housing Committee stop spending tens of billions of dollars of taxpayer funded money to purchase homes for the Muslims in the United States? You guys remember how we went over that whole thing? How the U.S. government, which their Housing Committee, which is overruled, which is being run by the Trump ally, Pulte, is using billions and billions and billions of taxpayer dollars to buy homes for Muslims in the United States. Well, here's an idea. If you don't want them voting, stop buying housing for them. But again, that conflicts the MAGA people as well, because they don't know what to believe on that one. But this administration, Trump's the good guy. He's the restrainer, as Andy Woods says. Yeah, if you guys don't know, he says he teaches that Trump is the restrainer. Yeah, the restrainer. He's the restrainer. And so he's going to save us from the Muslim problem. Meanwhile, he takes your taxpayer money and funds homes for Muslims. See what happens when you follow the political paradigm, Satan's religion of politics. You follow illogical narratives that don't make a lick of sense. But yet, if you don't follow the narratives, you think for yourself and you look through the lens of Scripture and being independent from that and being attached to Christ, it all makes sense. I don't know. Just putting that out there. That Titus 2 Live, what? The restrainer? Yeah, I don't know if he still teaches it, but rewind a couple months back and there was multiple prophecy videos that I saw from him that called Trump the restrainer. So, yeah, I don't know if he's quietly changed his tune on that or if he still does. I don't know. It goes on to say election workers have 5 days to respond to the Justice Department with plans to comply with the federal, state, and local election laws. The push is part of a broader effort by the Trump administration to crack down on non-citizen voting, which experts say is extremely rare. Well, the Heritage Foundation even says so too. Non-citizen registration is already rare, and non-citizen voting is even less common, a February report from the Bipartisan Policy Center said. And it says Trump issued an executive order on in March directing the Department of Homeland Security to work with the Social Security Administration to create a state citizenship list documenting people who are U.S. citizens and will be at least 18 years old by the next federal election. You're on the list, and we're gonna put it in the Palantir list at the same time. Oh man. Yeah. Anyways. So, You said list. I did say list, Lori. You're on the list. The lisp. If you're Mike Tyson, you're getting put on the lisp. Okay, so with all of that, the whole election side of things, going along, Amanda, if these illegals voting are so rare, why are they doing this? Again, I think this all has to do with, as I said before, this is a spectacle, a public theatrical display for the upcoming midterms. I think that's what's going on. Because that also, I like your Tyson impression. Hello, everybody. This is Mike Tyson for Encyclopedia Britannica. Oh, man. So, we have this as well, which kind of adds to the possibility of a spectacle, fireworks in November, because it appears we're getting more quote unquote fortifications to the White House. Now, we've been seeing all over that Trump is spending billions upon billions of your money, your taxpayer dollars, on all this stuff in Washington, D.C. and to the White House and everything like that. But he appears to be fortifying this White House into a fortress. We already know about the ballroom. Everybody claims that they know what is being built underneath the ballroom, and I'm sitting there going, no, you don't. We have random rumors and ideas and speculative words and stuff like that of things that may be under the ballroom, but we don't know what's under there. We know what was there before. We know that there was a bunker down there before. It was a security headquarters below, and now we know that they're building something down there with it. And it's one of those things where obviously whatever they're building down there is something not good for us, but the details of which we don't know. But now they're stacking other stuff, including Trump planning to build a fence, permanent fence, around Pennsylvania Avenue outside the White House. The fence is sought by the Secret Service as a security measure, would make it easier to shutter pedestrian access. So what they're trying to do, before we even read this article, put this out. Jack Roth, again, we don't know that. We don't have any actual proof. That's what they're building. Again, I have to say this all the time. Whenever I talk about data centers or the bunker or the ballroom or anything like that, I continuously have to say, just because you heard something about what it is does not mean that that's what's there. We don't know. Everybody has ideas. Well, we know it's going to be this. No, we don't. We don't know what is under there. Unless we can verify it, we can't verify it. So it's just, don't be so quick to throw out there saying it's going to be this. Do you have anything that proves that? Well, no, it's just because this is what I heard. Then we don't know that. And we got to be very careful. People do it with prophecy all the time in scripture. I hear all the time. I still hear people, well, we know that cryptocurrency is going to be the mark of the beast. No, we don't. We have no idea. You're taking something in scripture which is not specified in any way, shape, or form about that. We have a very small, limited description of what it is, and you're just turning it into something that we don't know. Go back 50 years and listen to what the Christians were saying back then. The mark of the beast is going to be this. Remember when we heard it was going to be barcodes that they started adding to like food items and stuff at the grocery store? Yeah, well, we're way past that now, aren't we? Again, I'm not trying to come down on anybody. I'm not trying to, be a meanie pants or anything like that. I'm just trying to say, don't be so quick to claim something as one thing if you don't know for sure what it is. There's still some people out there saying that the 2020 jab is the mark of the beast. They're still saying that that's the mark of the beast, and that makes no logical sense whatsoever. Now, that one I think might be true, Titus, The bunker underneath the ballroom is going to be a giant depends factory. That might be the case. That might be the case. But anyways, the reason why I'm saying that, again, I'm not trying to come down on anybody, but the reason why I'm saying that is because if you claim it that way and you're talking to somebody and it turns out that you're wrong, you have lost credibility. And you have also taken the credibility from anybody else who also calls themselves a watchman. It's the same thing that goes on with the date setters that have been wrong millions of times by this point. But the next one, they'll have it right. You're destroying credibility when you claim something as definitive when you don't actually know. So that's why it's so dangerous to do that. And that's why I warn about it all the time. That's why I don't sit here and claim to know what each individual data center is going to be, because they could all be a case-by-case basis. Everybody seems to generalize them all together at the same time. But we don't even know if those data centers are going to be working during the 70th week. Again, if you want to go by what the world is going to be like, you're talking about massive natural events happening here with volcanoes and earthquakes and all this stuff. All these data centers could be destroyed by the time it happens. Does anybody necessarily think in that direction? These data centers could be easily offline by the time that stuff starts happening. So again, we just got to be careful. Yeah, Becca, I remember in the 80s, my mom read a book about credit cards being the mark of the beast. Yeah, exactly. It's just what it's because we view it in the perspective of the here and now, because we can't see the future and we just naturally think, well, it has to be something that's already here. And it really kind of throws everything off, because now you're kind of blinding yourself to possible future developments. And now you're kind of losing credibility whenever you proclaim something that you don't necessarily know is true. And things can change so quickly. Look at how things have changed so quickly in the past 6 years since 2020. Look at how fast things have changed. When 2020 hit, did anybody think that we were going to be here 6 years later? Be honest. Be honest. Did you think we were going to be here 6 years later? And look at how fast things have changed. Yeah, Depends Factory. Again, I'm thinking it's yeah, Rebecca. Yeah, no. I guess I'm going to hell since I got the nope, that's not how it works, even though I hear people all the time that say that. It's sad. Sad. Jalapeno, no, yeah. I was with you on that one too. I didn't think we'd be here 6 years later. I thought maybe a couple years and then we'll be out of here, but we're seeing things that I never thought I'd see. And that's why it's one of those things where we got to make sure we just kind of chill out, not plant our flags, not be so definitive about things. And we'll just kind of wait and see what happens. So, but yeah, that's just my whole thing on it. Just, we don't know what's underneath these things. All we can do is take the rumors and the speculation that we've been told. But guaranteed, this one I'm willing to say a guarantee. When it comes to things like the data center, the ballroom bunker, and other little things here and there like that, there's stuff involved with that we have no idea about. I can almost guarantee that one. All right. So getting back to this about the fencing. So it's almost like the White House is getting fortified. And so what they're planning on doing is they want to set up permanent, large-scale barrier fences that they can block off permanently of all of Pennsylvania Avenue and Lafayette Park. So they want to do like a giant barricade outside the White House to block off the entire park and Pennsylvania Avenue. And again, we're getting to the point now where it's like they're really, I mean, you're talking about this new ballroom that they're doing. They're talking about, we'll get to some of the stuff. They got the helipad that they're doing, more fortifications, this permanent fencing that they want to set up. And they're all doing this at the same time. That's all going to be ready to go by September. just before the midterms. It says the Trump administration plans to erect new fences on the ends of the Pennsylvania Avenue northwest outside the White House, the latest effort to boost presidential security. The White House and Secret Service would be able to close the new fences planned where Pennsylvania Avenue intersects with 15th and 17th streets northwest and prevent pedestrian access in front of the White House if they determine there are security risks. Very interesting. The White House has long relied on temporary barriers staffed by Secret Service personnel to shut down Pennsylvania Avenue to pedestrians. Secret Service officials have previously suggested building permanent fences on Pennsylvania Avenue, but faced resistance from past administrations over the perception of restricting public access to the White House. Asked about the planned fencing, a White House official said that conversations about improving campus security were ongoing and that any proposed projects would go through a review process. And we all know that their review process is, well, we need it, so do it. The Trump administration also plans to build new permanent fencing around Lafayette Square, the public park across from the White House mansion. And so, yeah, they want to do it on this too. So this is the other image from their little informational pamphlet about this. And so, yeah, they want to do an entire thing blocking off even the roads that get down to Pennsylvania Avenue, as well as the entire park itself. So they really want to fortify this whole front area. And this would make sense because if they are planning for something of riotal perspective, you know, riots and stuff like that, the park would be a staging ground that they could use. And so they would want that fenced as well. So Trump officials and Secret Service have conducted additional reviews of presidential security risks after the April shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the third time in less than 2 years that Trump found himself under the threat of gunfire. Oh my, Miss Daisy, can you believe that almighty Trump has been under gunfire for three times in 2 years? What are we going to do about this? Let's fortify the White House, even though the narcissistic man himself won't even speak of these attempts and how he's survived these life-taking excursions. We're going to go ahead and use that as an excuse to fortify this White House. Just waiting for them to add the moat with the gators in it. So it says President Bill Clinton in 1995, of course, shut down Pennsylvania Avenue in front of the White House to cars, turning to a long-standing road into a pedestrian thoroughfare. So we know that that used to be an actual road, but it got turned to a pedestrian street only. Go shopping. Oh no, that's W. No, this is the 1920s prospector back in the Western days, the 1800s. Build ourselves something good. This would mean that the residents and tourists alike would be unable to see the White House from any reasonable distance, especially if Trump plants more trees in the park. McGill wrote in an email Thursday. He's a past General Service Administration official, alluding to the president's separate plan to plant 47 trees. 47, get it? In Lafayette Square. So, they're looking to build up a giant permanent fence out in the front to keep people away. On top of that, see, that's not just it. The White House is fortifying the front door. They're completely redoing the entire front of the White House as well, where tarps hang amid Trump's construction blitz. So if you guys don't know, there's been scaffolding out in front of the White House for a week or so, and now they went and hung giant tarps around it, blocking all of what they're doing behind there. And now we're being told that it's probably to fortify. And so you can see the giant scaffolding, and now they're hanging tarps with pictures of what the White House looked like before. They're hiding something, guys. So security upgrades to the White House front door come at the behest of the Secret Service and are expected to take until mid-September. Tarps went up on the White House's north portico in the late morning on Thursday, covering scaffolding that stood for days. You guys can see these giant tarps that they're hanging out. So they're definitely doing something behind those things. Keep in mind, this is the administration of transparency. That's what they self-proclaimed. They're the administration of transparency. It says construction crews began work on a previously unannounced helipad. If you guys don't know, the UFC event went and destroyed the South Lawn. And so now, rather than fixing it, they're just going to build a giant helipad on the South Lawn. So yeah, this South Lawn's gone at this point. Now it's just going to be a giant helipad on the South Lawn. Last week, contractors' records obtained by the Washington Post earlier this week showed that the White House sped up construction on the $13 million project and added $875,000 to the bill in anticipation of an upcoming state visit. So here's what's up. If you guys don't know, they're spending $13 million of your dollars to build a helipad on the South Lawn of the White House. Then they're taking $875,000 more you are going to be paying for the visit of Xi Jinping. That's right. You are going to be paying $875,000 to have China's president come to the White House. Yes, China's president that we've been told that we're about to go hot with war against China, and they're going to spend $875,000 of your money to bring him in for a visit on the new $13 million helipad that you paid for as well. Keep in mind, guys, we're at war with China. Trump and Xi Jinping dislike each other. Keep that in mind. That's what the narrative tells us. Yeah. $875,000 to the bill in anticipation of an upcoming state visit. The visiting world leader is not named, but we know it's going to be President Xi Jinping, who is set to arrive in September. And of course, we know about the White House ballroom. Across D.C., tarps also stand outside the Kennedy Center, blocking the venue sign, which now lacks Trump's name following a court order to remove it from public view. The tarps have stood for nearly a month. A federal judge last month ordered the center to explain the purpose of the tarps by the end of July. Yeah, in case you guys don't know, you know how Trump just illegally went in and added his name to the Kennedy Center? Well, the judge ordered that to be taken down. So because Trump has such a soft ego that can't be told no because he's just a little child and depends, he went and had his name removed, but then hung a tarp over the name of the John F. Kennedy Center so nobody can even see John F. Kennedy. That's how petty this man is. We also know that $1.2 billion, that's how much 18 major construction projects Trump has launched across Washington, D.C. could cost, according to an estimate by the New York Times. $1.2 billion of your money. You're struggling. The job market is atrocious. The cost of living is skyrocketed. The cost of fuel is through the roof. Inflation is absolutely crazy. The entire ecosystem is being wrecked, and people are just working paycheck to paycheck to try and get the bare minimum to survive. And Trump is spending $1.2 billion in order to beautify Washington, D.C., because he's here for America first, to take care of the American worker, because he's here for you. I was told repeatedly that he's going to come in and he's not a politician. He's going to run the country like his business. Which of the 8 businesses that he bankrupted is he running the country like? I'm just curious. I'm just being honest. These are the facts. These are the facts. This isn't narrative. This isn't, you get Trump derangement syndrome. No, this is the facts of the matter. It's up to you if you want to continue to be lied to, or if you want to live by the reality of the situation. It's up to you. That's not all. So we got permanent fences. We got a fortified front door. We got a helipad. We got the new security thing under the ballroom. Now the Pentagon is to keep the National Guard activated in D.C. through Inauguration Day 2029. That's right. Military on walking the streets of D.C. through the entire Trump presidency. Man, I seem to remember reading about something about not having standing army, you know. Now we got police not police, now we have military just walking the streets every day. They're conditioning you to military on the streets. They're conditioning you. On top of that, not to mention, National Guard, they have regular jobs, which they can't go back to now because they forever have to be walking the streets of DC doing nothing. Remember, just 6, 7, 8 months ago, they had the National Guard picking up trash because there was nothing else for them to do. They're just walking around picking up trash. And now that they're going to be there through 2029, the National Guard will remain activated in Washington, D.C. through Inauguration Day 2029 as part of Trump's anti-crime mission, unless the president deems otherwise, according to the Pentagon. By the way, I looked at the stats, the actual stats of what's going on in D.C. There hasn't been a change in crime. There's been a change in what crime is being done, but as far as overall crime, nothing has changed, even with the National Guard walking the streets. As of July 8th, nearly 5,150 National Guard troops from multiple states are in D.C. According to the Joint Task Force, 9 states and territories are providing support for Freedom 2025 and associated summer events from May through the end of August. Just to let you guys know, to keep the National Guard activated and in D.C. Through Inauguration Day 2029, it's going to cost almost $3 billion taxpayer dollars. So you're spending $3 billion to keep the National Guard walking around the streets of D.C., either standing there or picking up trash. We having fun yet? 16 tons. I wonder if these troops are armed. I think some of them are, but not all of them are walking around with firearms. So I think they have non-lethals. I think only a select few actually are carrying lethals. So, but yeah, so my perspective on that is I'm seeing a lot of buildup for something in with the midterms. Especially when you're fortifying the White House, you're having the National Guard stay on the streets. You're doing everything that you possibly can to wreck the election stuff to make sure that it's not being rigged, but everything that you're doing is really showing that there's going to be something going on, which again, the only reason why we would be getting all of this information, getting all of this spectacle, is if they're purposely wanting to condition and prep the citizens for something. Now again, this midterm can come and go just like that without any issue. But maybe something will happen. I don't know. Either way, something worth keeping an eye on. I have an eyelash. There we go. All right. Let's take a look at some man, we're smashing with time here, so we gotta go through some of this. Let's talk about some corruption and pardons and all this type of stuff, because it just never ends. This is what happens when you have lawless criminals running the government like they've always been doing, but now we have somebody that's worse than what it was. You guys know what I'm talking about. How about this one? Trump officials waiver spark SEC ethics uproar. Jeez. Look, oh my gosh. they're both laughing, going, "Can you believe that we were hand selected to be puppets for all of this?" I know, man, it's great. Anyways, says Trump's government allowed an unnamed Securities and Exchange Commission investigator to hold stock in companies being probed, deeply alarming experts concerning conflict of interest. Trump's SEC signed a waiver allowing a commission investigator to hold stock in the same companies that he's investigating. Does anybody see a problem with that? If you're holding stocks in a company and now you're being told to investigate said company for crimes, well, you're not going to want to prove that there's crimes going on with the companies that you hold stock in, because that means you're going to lose money. But they're allowing it to happen. The investigator, whose name was redacted from a document revealed Friday by Notice, was reportedly allowed to hold on to shares of Alphabet, Meta, and Microsoft. Wow. Big ones, too. The waiver was signed on May 28th by David Reinhold, the director of the SEC's Office of Human Resources. It is the only waiver among more than 250 issued since Trump took office in which the recipient's identity was hidden. The only one with 250 of them. And it's hidden. Who on earth is it? And only one of two instances of name redaction among more than 16,600 total government ethics filings on record. The stocks make up a significant portion of the individual's assets, Holman wrote in an email to Notice, and the holdings alone can be a serious potential conflict of interest that could affect the official's decision-making. You think? The waiver's author took a different view. Reinhold wrote that the official stake is not so substantial as to affect the integrity of the service which the government may expect from you. Yeah, because we've heard that with Trump before, and we saw how much money he's making off of the backs of the American citizens. So yeah, sure, we'll believe you on that one. It's not the first time that the Trump administration has raised conflict of interest concerns. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche shut down Justice Department investigations into crypto companies while holding between $159,000 and $485,000 in cryptocurrency before he had divested, as he promised. We've talked about that before. He was a part of the investigation team into cryptocurrency companies, which he held stocks and holdings in. And so he decided to shut down the investigations in those exact companies that he was invested in. And they claim there's no conflict of interest. We also have a Department of Government Efficiency aide, Gavin Kleiger, helped oversee the layoffs of more than 1,400 Consumer Financial Protection Bureau employees while holding up to $365,000 in stock in companies the Bureau regulates, including the ethics lawyers who warned him about it. And according to financial disclosures, Trump's own investment accounts bought up to $1 million in NVIDIA stock on January 6, 2026. 1 week later, his administration loosened export controls, allowing NVIDIA to sell chips to China. And so his stock profit skyrocketed because of his own insider corruption. Don't worry, guys. Don't worry. It's only bad when the Democrats do it. Remember that, because that's what we were told. How about this one? Sun Cruise fraudster Adam Kidden, who paid Trump millions, draws a pardon from Trump. Where have we seen this one before? Oh, that's right. About, another couple hundred cases that we've already talked about, because it's pay to play. With the sweep of President Donald Trump's pardon pens, sweet payback arrives Friday night for South Florida's semi-infamous felon Adam Kidden. Don't worry, guys. He has mafia ties and got somebody murdered as well. That's another aspect of this story. The Palm Beach Gardens resident who served less than half of the 70-month federal prison sentence for fraud and conspiracy in the 2000 purchase of Sun Cruise casinos immediately saw both his status as a felon and his obligation to pay back $21.7 million plus interest and restitution dissolved. He pleaded guilty along with ex-super lobbyist Jack Abramoff. There is no indication in Kidden's Miami court file that he ever paid any of the millions he owed to his victims, who include the now grown sons of Sun Cruise and Miami Subs founder Konstantinos Gus Boulis, Aristotle, and Alexander Heron Boulis. Their father was shot to death on February 6, 2001 on Miami Road near Port Everglades in Fort Lauderdale by a mafia hitman. Kidden's mob associate later pleaded guilty. Kidden stole millions and then killed these guys' father through his mafia connections. And we know that Trump has major mafia connections too, so no surprise there. Wonder if it's the same mafia, don't know. But then, so he gets away with a mob hit and his felony charges and his restitution payments gone. Why? Because he paid Trump. There's no indication that Kidden, 61, followed the conventional path to the presidential pardon by applying to the Justice Department's Office of the Pardon Attorney. His name does not appear in a search of the office's clemency cases, suggesting he asked Trump directly to pardon him. So usually you have to get your lawyer to put in an official request to the Office of the Pardon Attorney, and it goes into a case file and into the system. Kidden does not have a case file in the system, which means he went directly to Trump to get the pardon. What did Kidden do before obtaining his pardon? Federal election records show that beginning in 2017, he gave heavily and repeatedly to Trump's campaign, Trump political committees, the Republican National Committee, the National Republican Congressional Committee, and numerous Republican House and Senate candidates nationwide. Millions of dollars in all. In the current 2025 to 26 federal election cycle alone, through June 30th, Kidden and his wife Kristani have so far given just $1 million, all of which went to the NRCC and the campaigns and PACs of Republican House and Senate candidates, election records show. That's all messed up. It says during Trump's 2024 run to the return to the White House, Kidden contributed more than $1.13 million to Trump's campaign and various committees supporting Trump. Kidden also given generously to Trump's choice to become Florida's next governor. To date, he has contributed $48,000 to the campaign of Representative Byron Donalds of Naples and Friends of Byron Donalds PAC. Then there's the cash Kidden paid to Trump's as a Trump customer at Mar-a-Lago. On the weekend of February 18th, 2023, Adam and Brazilian-born Christina were married. They had about 250 guests, including Trump and Melania Trump. And when Kidden became a member of the Mar-a-Lago Club is unknown, but the club's website says that membership is required to host a wedding there. The year Kidden married, the initiation fee was $700,000, and annual dues are about $15,000. You know, it's one of those things where even if you don't believe that there's a Luciferian cabal that sits above, that puppeteers prime ministers and presidents and everything like that, even if you don't believe that, I find it concerning that you can't see the fact that this president can be so easily bought and paid for. Because every move that he makes has to do with benefiting him financially in some way, shape, or form. He's so easily bought. When it comes to business deals, he'll make deals with terrorists, Muslims, enemies of the United States. When it comes to his buddies and fraudsters and stuff, you just pay for a pardon and you get it. You'll get off scot-free. You'll get an investigation drop from the Department of Justice. You'll get your felony charges dropped. You'll get pardoned from restitution payments. And it's so fascinating that I continue to see people saying that Trump is going after the fraud in this country, but yet the evidence, the facts, the stuff that you can actually go and look up and stack and count, which we've done many times, that Trump has pardoned more fraud, like tenfold of what they have prosecuted. People talk, well, they went after Minnesota. Again, we went over the fact that that Minnesota fraud case was going on 10 years before the whole Nick Shirley thing, with multiple people arrested, multiple people deported, money returned. And yet the fraud that they claim that they took down in Minnesota, which there's still a massive amount of fraud going on in Minnesota, that was all theatrics as well, is pocket change compared to what Trump pardons on a Tuesday. It's just, this is not about one side or the other. This is not about, well, you're defending the fraud of illegals and stuff. No, I'm not. Please show me where I said that I'm doing that. I'm just trying to give you the reality of the situation where it is all lies. So again, if you're somebody that doesn't believe in the Luciferian cabal, which, man, I don't know how you can figure out Bible prophecy without thinking that there's a Luciferian hierarchy above this, but you do you. You cannot deny that Trump is somebody who can be so easily bought and paid for. He doesn't stand for anything except the almighty dollar. And when he needs a diaper changing. It's just, this is the reality of the situation. Like this one too. U.S. to drop charges for alleged $722 million crypto fraudster. A crypto Ponzi scheme. Dropping charges. Justice Department leaders plan to drop charges against the alleged mastermind of a cryptocurrency Ponzi scheme that prosecutors said defrauded investors of $722 million, reversing course on a 2019 indictment that was nearing trial. The Deputy Attorney General's office in Washington recently ordered the New Jersey U.S. Attorney's Office to dismiss the prosecution with prejudice, although final terms are still being hashed out before the parties inform the courts. The reprieve for the Colorado man who, according to the court filings, once described the model as built on the backs of idiots. So the guy who's getting pardoned, who stole $722 million in his crypto Ponzi scheme, says, my model was built on the backs of idiots. Well, this comes during Trump's retreat to a crypto industry enforcement. Matthew Goesch, we'll just say that, created and operated an advanced crypto mining operation, Bit Club Network, that rewarded investors for recruiting new members. Pyramid scheme much? Prosecutors were scheduled to take him to trial in October before Goesch lawyers informed the judge July 8th that they'd reached an agreement in principle to resolve the pending charges. Facing counts of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and to sell unregistered securities, Goesch assembled a team of lawyers with connections to the Trump administration to lobby Department of Justice for relief. The men urging the department to abandon the case included Bradford Cohen. With a name like Bradford Cohen, you definitely need to become a lawyer. Was the Florida lawyer who supported Trump since appearing as a contestant on his reality show, The Apprentice, and Brett Tolman, a conservative criminal justice advocate who has helped clients secure Trump pardons. So there's more fraud, $722 million of fraud, pardoned, charges dropped. Yep, all taken care of. Got nothing to worry about, but don't worry. They're taking care of the fraud. It's funny because literally yesterday it showed JD Vance on stage talking about how there's one party of fraud and another party that's looking to eliminate fraud. Well, again, anybody who is looking for the truth and actually believes verified factual information realizes that that's nothing but lies. as well. How about this one? A GOP senator's coal firm polluted Appalachian waters for years before Trump's Department of Justice quietly killed the criminal case. This has to do with Senator Jim Justice. This is a federal criminal investigation into the sprawling coal empire. Strap in for this one, because this is disgusting. Federal criminal investigation into the sprawling coal empire of Senator Jim Justice was gathering pace when senior Trump appointees ordered prosecutors to put their pencils down. The investigation reports that the Office of the Deputy Attorney General shut down a Clean Water Act probe into the West Virginia Republicans' mining operations earlier in the year. The case examined whether years of pollution offenses by Virginia-based Southern Coal and dozens of affiliated firms have crossed in the criminal territory. Justice, of course, is a close ally to Trump, who endorsed his run for Senate in 2023. This is ridiculous. The regulatory paper trail behind the family's mines is long and public. In 2016, the Environmental Protection Agency announced a $5.9 million settlement with Southern Coal Corporation and 26 affiliated companies, a deal that resolved more than 23,000 water pollution violations recorded between 2009 and 2014 across 5 states. 23,000 water pollution violations across 5 states between 2009 and 2014. The companies agreed to a $900,000 penalty and roughly $5 million in system-wide pollution controls without admitting or denying liability. The government's complaint lodged in the Western District of Virginia alleged that Southern Coal had exceeded permit limits for pollutants among iron, aluminum, manganese, pH, and total suspended solids, and had failed to complete and timely discharge monitor reports. This is one of those things where, again, this is not tree hugging. This is water. What is something that we are currently dealing with here in the United States? We have massive water problems in, I don't even know, numerous states. Texas, Utah, Ohio, Arizona, Colorado, California, and I know I'm missing a few other ones. Water is becoming a problem, and now this is polluted water on top of it. The family's legal troubles did not end there. In August of 2024, a federal judge in Alabama held Jay Justice and Bluestone Coke in a civil contempt a day after the younger Justice failed to appear at a hearing over discharges to a Birmingham creek. That suit, brought by 2 Alabama environmental groups, alleged that the plant breached its permit more than 300 times. Georgia's having their own. New Mexico, too. Yeah, I know about New Mexico. Georgia's having a water problem, too. I had no idea. Jalapeno. Rio Grande ain't so grande anymore. It also says ProPublica reports that it was a joint effort by the EPA, the DOJ's Environmental Crime Section, and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Virginia, examining whether the relentless permit breaches amounted to criminal conduct under the Clean Water Act. I would think so. But prosecutors had begun gathering evidence, scrutinizing testimony from the family's several trials, and approaching former employees. As government lawyers fought the companies in court over subpoenas for the records, the Office of the Deputy Attorney General intervened. One source described the order as a blunt instruction to put pencils down, which came while Todd Blanche, yes, that Todd Blanche, the yes-man Attorney General, connected at the hip to Trump, who was blocking any release of Epstein file stuff. The same dude led the office before he became acting attorney general in April of 2026. He's the one that shut down the investigation into this dude who committed 23 water pollution violations between 2009 to 2014 in 5 states. He shut it down. My word. My word. And ending with corruption the corruption stuff. How about this one? Ex-Epoch Times CFO pleads guilty in $67 million multinational money laundering scheme. The former chief financial officer of the conservative multinational media company, the Epoch Times, has pleaded guilty to conspiracy. Yes, the very same Epoch Times that is so highly regarded by MAGA, Republican, and Christian reporters. The former chief financial officer of the Epoch Times, a conservative multinational media company, interrupted jury selection at his money laundering trial on Thursday to plead guilty to a conspiracy charge in a $67 million fraud scheme. Wydong Bill Guan, 63, of Secaucus, New Jersey, entered the plea in Manhattan federal court, admitting his participation in what prosecutors described as a scheme to launder fraudulently obtained unemployment benefits and other funds through the New York-based media company's bank accounts and related entities. Taking bets on when Trump's going to pardon this guy. Anybody? Put your guesses in the chat now. The conspiracy charge relating to illegal financial transactions carries a potential prison sentence of up to 10 years in prison, but the deal with prosecutors spares him from the possibility that he would be convicted of other charges at trial and face the chance of more than a decade in prison. As he admitted his role, Guan said he knew that there was a high probability that money passing through accounts he oversaw were proceeds of criminality. Yeah, Proton Polymarket time in the chat. Oh man. Yeah. Now, what's funny about this is this dude is saying, well, I knew that there was a high probability that these proceeds were part of criminal act. He's like sitting there, not even taking accountability. I'm sorry, you're not funneling $67 million through bank accounts that aren't your own if you don't know that there's criminality involved in this. It's stupid. And he says, but when the judge asked him if he was pleading guilty, he responded, I feel like I'm guilty. Oh, I bet his mother was sitting right behind him in tears. My son would never do this. He's an angel. The judge told him it was not a question of if he felt, but whether he was guilty. And Guan responded saying, I'm guilty. According to court papers, members of the company's Make Money Online team, even that sounds like a scam. The company's name is Make Money Online. Come on, man. Come on. That's like walking up to an Italian restaurant where there is a big fat dude wearing a suit in the back booth and not realizing that it's a mafia joint. I mean, come on. According to the court papers, members of the company's Make Money Online team, which was managed by Guan, used cryptocurrency since 2020 to knowingly purchase tens of millions of dollars in crime proceeds, including funds from fraudulently obtained unemployment benefits that were loaded into prepaid debit cards. Yeah, because I didn't know it was criminal. I felt like it could be criminal. Now, here's where we get the whipped cream, cherry, and sprinkles on top of all this. This is where it gets good. Stolen personal information was then used to open accounts as part of the money laundering scheme, prosecutors said. The money was further laundered through other bank accounts held by the Epoch Times and Guan's personal bank account and cryptocurrency account. They were using the Epoch Times bank account. Almost like the Epoch Times was being funded by cryptocurrency fraud. Prosecutors have said that the charges are not related to the media company's news gatherings activities. So the prosecutors are saying, oh, no. The money wasn't related to the news gathering activity at the Epoch Times. That doesn't say that the leaders of the Epoch Times are scot-free from this, though. Prosecutor told the judge that the trial would have included testimony from current and former Epoch Times employees, along with cryptocurrency records and hundreds of emails and text messages, including some in which Guan misled banks about the nature of the income going through various accounts. Check this. Federal prosecutors said that the media company's revenues, that Epoch Times revenues, jumped approximately 410% when the money laundering began. So you're going to sit there and tell me that no top dogs at the Epoch Times thought that that was fishy in any way, shape, or form? You got revenue for your company jumping 410%, and you're going to tell me that you don't know anything about it? I smell something. So it jumped 410% when the money laundering began, from approximately $15 million to $62 million. You're usually sitting at 15 million in your company's bank account, and all of a sudden it jumps to 62 million, and you're going to sit there and go, well, we had a good day. I don't think so. Guan, they said, lied to the banks when they asked about the increase in the transactions and said there was an increase in legitimate donations. The Epoch Times, which has promised full cooperation with the prosecutors, has become politically conservative over the years and embraced President Donald Trump. And I've warned about the Epoch Times before. Holy Toledo, if you want to talk about narrative. It's like Epoch Times, I always look at it this way. Epoch Times and Gateway Pundit are like CNN, but for the right wing. It's like, yeesh. I use a lot of different sources, but there are some sources that I just don't touch. And those are 3 of them. It also says, after Thursday's plea, the Epoch Times said in a statement that it was never a party to the litigation, and it remains focused on producing award-winning and independent journalism. Okay, first of all, does anybody expect, even if the Epoch Times was involved with this, that they would come out and publicly say, yeah, we knew about it? You think that they're going to do? No, I don't think so. And second of all, independent journalism. That's good comedy. Ooh, yeah. Okay. We'll go with that one. My word. Just, it's insane. It's insane what's going on. Anyways. All right. Well, we got a couple more stories here, but we're running low on time, so I'll bring these up on Tuesday. We'll talk about them on the next show, because I do want to talk about them. We just don't have enough time to go over everything. So, oh man, Zach, don't forget Harbingers. Oh yeah, Harbingers. I think Harbingers, though, aren't they one of those groups that takes stories from other places and posts them? Or do they actually write their own stuff? I don't know. Because like Prophecy Newswatch, I know a lot of people go there for their stuff, but they're notorious for just pulling from certain select news sources. They quote from it's just, oh man. Again, that's why it's one of those things I always recommend, because I still get people that send me comments and emails and stuff that they think that they're trying to ding me. It's like, because I see that you read stuff from, these mainstream news articles, and you're telling us that we need to, trust the information that you're putting out. Well, I've said this before. I've explained this several times, and I'll say it again. Just because I'm reading from one of the news sources on there doesn't necessarily mean that I just read that article and said, here, guys, believe whatever it says. No, it's because I've gone and verified the other stuff that they're saying, and I'm reading it from that particular news source because it's the most concise, that makes it easy for presentation. There's sometimes that I can't do that, and you'll notice that I make my own little presentation cards and put it up on screen because there's no article that concisely puts something together, so I just make my own. But in some cases, so if we're talking about something like one of these pardon things, well, how do you know that? You're just reading from a mainstream media source. You know, it's like, you can't trust that. It's because I went to the presidential pardon website and I looked up the name to see if he's there. And he's there. I confirmed it. We can confirm these things. You know, you don't just read an article and think that that's the end all be all truth. You're talking about all the, you know, the how much money that Trump's making in stocks and stuff like that. How do you know that? That could just be stuff made up by, well, because the presidential stock record was released and I backed up what the article said and I went and I looked it up in the actual record and it's true. That's why. So it's one of those things where we got to be active in looking this stuff up. And I noticed that anybody who just says, well, you're just reading from mainstream news articles, obviously you haven't actually done any actual individual looking at anything. It's the same thing whenever you talk to somebody where you bring something up regarding Trump and they're like, well, no, he didn't do that, even though you have verifiable proof that he did. Again, they haven't done any actual research. They don't want to because they want to hold on to the narrative. They want to hold on to their political flag. And that's what I talked about at the beginning of this thing is like, we can't go by this because it's nothing but theatrics. Again, when it comes to a thermostat setting, they're playing theatrics, so much so that the Department of Energy is deleting web pages that has the same thermostat setting as what Mamdani is putting, even though we know Mamdani is a puppet that was hand-selected and placed in there by the same people who control the Trump administration. It's because they're getting you to go with this narrative. They're getting you to go along with this stuff. And it's the same thing when it comes to news sources and stuff like that. Man, it's crazy. Like I said, there's some news sources out there that you got to be careful. Like I'll give you just a couple handful. When it comes to the right side of news sources, ones that I don't put any stock in, that I don't even go there. Epoch Times is one of them, especially since they started putting paywalls up. Gateway Pundit is another one of those things. Very rarely, I don't even go there. But Zero Hedge is another one that's involved with that stuff. When it comes to left-wing stuff, you got like CNN, you got like Mother Jones, and you got some of these other ones out there. They're a little bit more obscure. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but they're the ones that are like blatantly, they've got an agenda. Democracy Docket is another one, just like whatever on that one. But you can't just pick one of these news sources and go, well, I believe whatever they say because they're on my side of the things that I believe. We need to be active in looking at this stuff. Don't fall for the narrative. Verify this stuff. And if there's something that you can't verify, just collect the info, keep it in the back of your mind, and maybe something in the future. Again, 72-hour rule, man. I'm telling you, that 72-hour rule has saved my booty more times than I can count. So that's something I always recommend is the 72-hour rule on that. Gracie is Mother Jones, Alex's mom. No. No, definitely not. They're both clowns though. Mother Jones and Alex Jones, they're both clowns. Anyways, with all that being said, let's end with the good stuff, shall we? Positive, encouraging, hopeful, salvation. Let's end with the gospel of Jesus Christ. The most important bit of news that I can give you. And we always end with it. And the gospel of Jesus Christ is as simple as ABC. A is you admit that you're a sinner. The act of repentance, metanoia, turning from self to Christ. It's through repentance that allows true belief in Jesus Christ. Because how can you believe in Jesus Christ as your Savior, the one who can save you from your sins, if you don't first know why you need him? And just like the criminal on the cross, it was through repentance that he then believed. And so we need to do the same. And we come to the Lord humbly, and we place our faith in him. So first we repent. Second, we believe. We believe that Jesus Christ is the one and only begotten Son of God, that he came down 100% man, 100% God, the God-man, the one and only. He's the only one that lived the perfect sinless life, which means he was the only one qualified to carry the sins of the world, past, present, and future, upon his shoulders, a weight and a pain that I think even surpassed what came next in the crucifixion. But he took on both at the same time, willingly for us, so that we may believe and get life through him. He took those sins to the cross where he was crucified and he died. But because there's power in the blood of Jesus Christ, he defeated death and rose again on the third day. For all who believe in him shall not perish, but live forever in his presence and in his glory. The glory is his. He did it. It is the finished work. There's nothing we can do, buy, trade, transact. We can't sell it. We can sell a false version of it, which many are doing today, but we can't actually sell the real gospel. It is a free gift. Tetelestai. It is finished. Repent, believe, and in response, we acknowledge and call upon the Lord. See, when we receive salvation, we are indwelt with the Holy Spirit, and we are given an incredible supernatural gift of prayer that allows us a direct line, direct access to our Heavenly Father in his holy place, his throne room. Think about that. Think about that. You go back Old Testament, and there was only certain people on certain times with certain restrictions that were able to gain access to the holy place of God. But through Jesus Christ and the intercession of the Holy Spirit, we get direct access to God. Think about that. It's incredible. And we can go to our Heavenly Father and say, God, thank you for sending your Son, Jesus Christ, to be the perfect willing sacrifice, to give his life so that I may live, something that I don't deserve. But yet you freely give it to me anyways. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for the patience and the mercy that you show upon us. And God, we ask for your wisdom and your guidance as we continue to navigate this insanely dark world that is closing in so fast. We ask for your wisdom and guidance and protection as we navigate these times to go out there and be the best watchmen that we possibly can, that you have called us to be. And to go out there and share the gospel and make disciples as you have given us instruction to do. And we ask, Lord Jesus, that you please come soon. Maranatha, in your holy name that we pray. Amen. Amen. All right. Let's see here. Got any questions? Looks like we got a few questions. Let's see here. Lori S. Are they offering money to put a miniature data center on people's houses? I don't know anything about that. A miniature data center on the house. That, I haven't heard anything about that, but I'm not sure how they would be able to do that. I can see putting like, I don't know. Do you have like, Lori, do you have a specific thing that you saw that you're referencing? Can you email that to me so I can take a look at it? Because I don't know anything about this. I'm not sure I understand how they could do it. So if you saw something about it, can you email that to me? I'm curious. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know anything about that. Let's see here. KC, I've seen the reports of data centers being put in residential neighborhoods on houses. The size of see, that doesn't seem like a data center. That seems like a data box or something like that, which maybe that's what they're going to, yeah, I need to see more about that. I would need to look into it. That's interesting. Yeah. Please email that to me, Lori. Thank you. Let's see here. Kathy Peth says, I believe that the Bible talks about Jesus will still have the crucifixion scars Yeah, we know that because when he appeared in the room, he had Thomas touch his hand. So yeah, will he still be unrecognizable as a human as stated in the Bible? Yeah, that's one of those things that's a debated topic. Whether it's like, is he still going to be unrecognizable? But I always, again, go back to the situation in the room where he appeared to them. He appeared to them in the room. They recognized who he was. And so it's one of those things where he was unrecognizable as a human, but yet when it came to in his new body, he was recognizable. So I use that as an example in that case. And so I think that'll play a part on that. But again, I could be wrong. I could be dead wrong. I'm just giving you my perspective on it. So, let's see here. Casey, I sent you an email with shirt in the subject line, not to interrupt your podcast mental flow, but heads up. Okay. I'll take a look. Lori S. question, heard that they shut down CERN. What is your take on this? Whenever they say they shut something down, we usually find out that they have something worse operating in its place. So if they actually did shut down CERN, which I'm not sure I'm buying, plus there's multiple CERNs, so which one did they shut down? I think there's, 4 of them? I don't remember the exact thing. I think there's 4 of them. If they shut it down, there's something worse in its place. It's always like that. Again, small features. We just talked about it. LifeLog, shut down. Facebook, even worse. You look at the Information Awareness Office, shut down. Palantir, even worse. So that's another one of those things on that. So there's a tarp hanging on it now. yeah, they just put a tarp on it. There you go. That's what they see. Gosh, that was good. All right, that's all the questions we got. Thanks for joining me, you guys. Usual spiel, if you guys can, like, man, you guys got me laughing this one, I'll tell you what. Please like, share, subscribe, get this out to as many people as you can. It's not about views, not about butts and seats, but it is about getting the warning out to people and getting people to Jesus. If you guys can do me a solid, like, share, subscribe, certainly appreciate it, so we can get the gospel out and the warning out to as many people as we can. Also following on Rumble and Telegram. Those are my backup channels. Oh my goodness. Rumble's a backup channel in case we get booted off YouTube. Telegram, we post updates, announcements, and other little things here and there that I can't necessarily put in video format. So feel free to put those or to follow along on there. If not, just make sure you guys bookmark the WretchedWatchmen.com website, the one-stop shop to stay up to date on everything happening around the Wretched Watchmen world of things. You'll find the latest podcasts and live streams. You'll find the announcement page and the free book to download and all the other things as well. So make sure you guys bookmark that to stay up to date. And last but not least, if you guys like to support this channel and what I got going on, I got donation links down below, CashApp, Venmo, and Give, Send, Go. Again, this channel is entirely donation run. It's entirely based on love offerings and everything like that. We make this and everything that we do for free because that's how it should be. Our goal is to try and reach as many people as we can with this information, not sell it to only a select few of people that can afford it and just, pretty much already know the Lord. So again, you guys are the ones that make this run. I can't thank you enough. You keep everything going. So thank you for your donations. And if you want to contribute, those links are below. So thank you guys. I love all of you. Tomorrow is Sunday. So make sure you get your wretched, misfit, heathenic booties to church tomorrow, whether online, in person, as long as it's a Bible-believing, Christ-following church. And it is so hard to find them nowadays, but you gotta do what you gotta do. And if we're not out of here by Tuesday, which I hope that we are, if not, I'll see you guys on Tuesday, same time, same place. Peace out. Maranatha.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.